What's the most shocking thing you found out about someone you know? My dad taught at different local universities on the side for most of his career. One of the professors he was especially close with, a man named Fred, was about a decade younger than him. My dad had served as a Marine in World War II as a teenager toward the end of the war. He was a German American, born and raised in New York City, but he spoke German at home with his family. Fred would always hug my dad goodbye, and they often spoke to each other in German. Fred was Jewish, in Germany during the war. As a child, he and his mother were in hiding, separate from the rest of the family. This was mostly so his older brothers had a better chance of surviving without the burden of protecting a young child and their mother. His sister was able to flee the country. Hiding 6 people together would have been nearly impossible, and Fred's father had already been taken by the Nazis. Eventually, the Nazis were closing in, and it was well known that anyone still hiding would be found. The decision was made for Fred and his mother to be buried in a box underground, along with others. They were told they could survive for 3 days, though no one quite knew how. The hope was to dig them out sooner, but the Nazis stayed in the area longer than expected. Shovels were hidden, and trusted neighbors were ready to start digging as soon as the signal was given. When the time came, my dad and other German-American Marines were operating nearby. Because they spoke fluent German and blended in, they weren't recognized as American troops at first. They arrived just as the digging had begun. The neighbors thought they were Nazis and feared they would all be shot, but instead, my dad and the other Marines joined in and helped dig. My dad was one of the men who dug Fred and his mother out of the ground. The fact that Fred and his mother had been buried alive, relying entirely on the courage and timing of others to survive, still shocks me to this day. I can't imagine the strength it took for Fred's mother to make that decision, knowing the risk. In the end, Fred, his mother, his sister, and only one of his brothers survived the war. My dad and Fred stayed in contact for the rest of their lives. When we visited Germany, Fred's family treated us like royalty. When they came to the US, they always stayed with us. After learning how they met, it all finally made sense. I had always thought they were just close colleagues, but the truth was so much deeper. There are other stories from my dad's life I'll never know. But I do know that as a child, whenever we visited different parts of Germany, people would come up to my dad crying and hugging him. We would be invited into homes. I would play with the children while my dad sat with the adults, and now I understand why.